Summertime. Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to the J-Rod Concerts podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, today is one for the books. Today, I am truly humbled, truly humbled to welcome a living legend, an American icon to the show. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class 1988 with the Supremes, musician activist, founding and longest member of the Supremes, the best charting female group in US history. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mary Wilson. What an honor to have this living icon in the show. Mary just recently celebrated her 60th anniversary of being in show business. And she's part of the Supremes, 12 1 million selling records, 5 consecutive number ones, and one of the most impactful musical groups in North American history. We had a chance to sit down with Mary. She was very generous with her time. We touched on a lot of things, not only coronavirus and the social unrest, and she has some good, she's lived across the country and she's seen a lot, so she has really interesting perspectives. But we also talked about the Supremes, key moments in American history. Listen, without the Supremes, we would not have so many groups and DNAs like Beyonce. I mean, the list goes on and on. The Supremes are one of the most important groups in musical history. So it is an absolute honor to welcome Mary. We hope you guys enjoy this fantastic episode. We appreciate all the great feedback that you guys have given us via social media on Instagram at J-Rod Concerts Podcast or on our email, jamie@jrodconcerts.com. So we just want to thank you for that. If you like the podcast and this is your first time, welcome. Please subscribe and give us 5 stars if you can. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Mary Wilson of the Supremes. Mary, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great.
So I have to tell you, Mary, before anything, there are no words. It is an absolute honor to have you here today with us, Mary.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Okay.
No, it really is, Mary. I mean, where do I start? Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, 1988, musician activist, founding and longest member of the Supremes, the best charting female group in US history, best-selling author. Mary, you recently celebrated your 60th anniversary of being in show business. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's been a long run. Oh, let me turn my phone down here off. It's been a long, wonderful run. I'm very, very happy about it. And hey, I'm thrilled. What can I say?
Yes.
I'm still here. And especially with all of this going on, we have so much going on with this.
So much.
The pandemic, and then of course the protesting, but I look at it like this. Sometimes things just come to a head. My mom used to say that when it comes to a head, then it busts open. You know what I mean? So that's where we are now. And who knows how it all came about, but it did all come about right now. So there's got to be a reason. And my mom always said there was a silver lining somewhere. And in everything, and yes. I kind of think so. Maybe this was ordained, to happen.
I think so. We think your mom's right. We hope she's right, and yeah, absolutely, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned everything that's going on, Mary. Let's start with like a couple of current event things. Okay. How have you been spending, the past 3-4 months Are you in Las Vegas, right?
I live in Las Vegas and I'm here. And, it's amazing because they say that the elderly are one of the most vulnerable things that are going on now. And you have to be careful. And I guess I'm that way because my children say, Grandma, and I have 10 of those and one great grandchild. So, yeah, I'm fine. But my family is all in LA. And also, they're in Georgia. They're kind of all over the place. So I'm not seeing anyone. I'm here by myself, and but I'm having a great time. You see, because as you mentioned earlier, that this is the 60th anniversary since I've kind of been out there on the road, and it's they said be careful what you wish for, because I had wished for a couple of months off just to relax, because I have been doing all over the world for all these years, all countries, continents, and states, and islands and everything.
Yeah.
And I needed a little rest, to come off the
Sure.
road. And so, but be careful what you wish for. I didn't wish for a whole year. Who knows even if that's going to be what it is. But
absolutely. I talked to John Oates the other day of Hall & Oates, and he said, so this is what retirement feels like, huh? I don't like it.
I know, right? And I'm not about to retire. So to answer your question though, I'm having a good time because I'm able to do things that I have not had an opportunity to do because I'm always traveling. Unpacking boxes, going through my file cabinets, reorganizing my bookshelves, throwing things away, all these things. I'm having a good time doing that. And also I'm doing lots of interviews and I'm reaching out to people. People are reaching out to me, friends I haven't heard from. One girl just texted me, and she and I were high school friends.
Oh, wow.
Right here. And I'm have an opportunity to catch up on things, like they say, stop and smell the roses. So I'm having an opportunity to do that. However, on the downside, I do have to say all my gigs have been canceled.
Sure.
So I'm kind of like like everybody else here, wondering, okay, are we going to get back to work soon? But I do think and feel that since this is such a huge thing, Red Fox used to say, this is the big one, we need to stop and don't jump back out there too fast because of money. And, a lot of us need you need your money to pay, your mortgages and your everything. So, on the downside, those things are going on. But then again, it's having people to come out and say, we need to do something about problems that still exist here, that a lot of us, especially Afro-Americans and Latinos and, Afro-American Indians, the indigenous people. So there are lots, it's up and down and there's a lot of things happening, but we need to really look at it seriously. It's not a movie, where
right.
ending. We have got to take care of the ending ourselves.
I like that. So before we pivot to that, I want to ask you about the social things, but Takesha, your 10 grandchildren, your great grandchild, they're all good and healthy and everyone's good.
Yeah, they call me every morning. In fact, my daughter runs my company. She calls herself the CEO of it. And so she actually sets up all the Zooms and things like that, along with my PR company. So they're all fine. Her children are fine. My son's children are fine. And they're all good. They're all good. They check me all the time.
Good to hear, Mary.
Yeah,
so, you mentioned a little bit about the social stuff. You started singing in 1959, Mary. America was obviously still segregated. But you guys became huge in 1964, key point in American history, Martin Luther King, Sammy Davis, all these pioneers. And you've lived all over the country, Mary. You lived all over. So you have a unique perspective on what's going on. So what is your take on this social protest and all this social movement right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've told lots of my friends that we, especially those of us who are still alive in my age group, the baby boomers, we actually experienced a lot of these things that they're protesting about. Sure. I'm happy to see that some of the people who are protesting are not all the older people like myself, They're younger. I'm glad to see that it's not all Afro-Americans who are out there protesting, that everyone seems to be in it. And because a lot of times back then, I experienced how it was to not to drink out of a public water fountain in the park, but it had to say for colored only. You couldn't drink out of the one that says for white.
Sure.
I remember being on a Dick Clark tour from in case a lot of the young people don't know Dick Clark. He was from the American Bandstand. He's like one of the first rock and roller DJs to really visually DJs to bring all kinds of people onto his show, black, white, where a lot of the shows did not. So I lived through all of that, and I lived when I think it was 1955. I saw on one of the black magazines, I think it was Jet, may have been Ebony, I'm not sure, and it showed where what young black man had been not only lynched. I mean, he was beaten and bound and thrown into the river, and they showed this picture of this man on this magazine. And so I was probably the 11, 12, 13, something like that. And that opened my eyes to what my parents had been telling me, telling me about all the slavery and things like that. And, you hear about it. And so, that really opened my eyes to what was going on. So that was more than 60 years ago, right? So now, some 60 years later, it's all out in the open. We have our little cameras, you know what I mean? We can take everything that's going on. So now everyone is actually seeing this. These young people are seeing it. It's like, wow, this is what they're talking about. This is what we've heard about. So everyone's saying, okay, this has got to end. So I think that's where I stand. I stand with opening up Pandora's box, and seeing what's in there and say, okay,
the truth laid out.
What do we want to do now? What are we going to do now about this? You know what I mean? I don't think people should be. I don't want people out there fighting and being angry, whatever. But you got to be a little angry when you see that these things have happened. These things have happened to some of your heroes, people that you know what I mean, the people that you admire. The black people that you admire. These things happen to their parents, to their grandparents. So we should be concerned as a nation. And I think we are. I think people are now saying, okay, let's decide what we want to do, how we want to go forward.
Sure, Mary. Very well said. I mean, you've seen so much. I know you have that one story that you came to play here in Miami back in the day. I think your brother was here, came to see you, stationed from Vietnam, and just the way people talked was like really kind of like just ignorant, but it was a different time, right?
It was a different time. And, the law was the law, So if the law said that you don't like black people, you don't like black people, So, it was one of those things where people adhered to the law. As you mentioned, my brother was in the Vietnam War, and poor thing, he's still trying to get over that, and he's in his 70s. So, it's you're talking about the time when this lady said to us, "Oh, I allow my family to stay up and watch you guys on the Ed Sullivan Show." My brother was, as I said, he was like a wannabe Black Panther. And he said, what she, and I can't curse, but she said, what does she mean by she allows her family to watch you on the Ed Sullivan Show? Well, back then it was true because people did not openly like and look at black people.
Sure.
So, now you do, your heroes, LeBron, Michael Jackson, I mean, everybody, these people you admire and you allow them in your home. But back then, people did not want that to happen. So, those things are, I wrote about a lot of that in my book, my two books.
Bestsellers. Some of the best-selling books. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So, there were lots of stories. Sure. But, we've come through it and we're here now. But see, there's still people who are suffering from. People say, well, why are black people still so angry? Well, because this happened to our people. You know what I mean? We didn't come to America because we want to. We were shipped here. sorry, shipped, but we were shipped here at the bottom of it, you know.
Wow,
So,
yeah, sure.
but yet and still, we love America, and people have gotten upset because this young man was on his knees. I mean, they say it was the flag. It wasn't about the flag. It was about the cruelty that's still going on. I mean, and you know that that's happening. So
Sure.
people. Yeah, I think they have a right. I mean, look at the Holocaust and all those people have a right to be, and they're bringing their people in to be, to figure out what to do with these people who are still alive. So I think it's time. I think so.
Sure.
I'm happy about it. I'm not happy about the looting. Some crazy people are always out there doing it all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, there's always the bad
All
apples.
kind of people. I mean, you're not talking about just one group of people, and people just, but still, then you're gonna come back to another situation. Sometimes people are, they're homeless. Sometimes they don't have a job. So
Yeah.
maybe that the poverty. So people are doing things sometimes because of that. So all these
Yeah.
things need to be looked at, and look at the educational system. We the Supremes travel the world, as I mentioned, and not to blow my own horn, but I was appointed a cultural ambassador
Sure.
by Colin Powell, and I had an opportunity again to travel the world and to some of the AIDS the situations around the world. I was able to talk about that. But it's kind of like one of those things where I forgot the point I was making. But I mean, there's so many things that
so many points,
here in America that we need to handle. People, when I traveled as an ambassador, everyone wanted to come here to America because America is so great. But look, here in America, our educational system is totally broken down.
Sure.
I mean, when I was going to school back in the 60s, we had great educational system. We had, in fact, my granddaughter, one of my grandchildren, just got her driver's license. She passed the test and she was so happy. I remember when we had driver's ed in school. I remember when we had, the girls had home economics. We learned how to cook, sew, do all those things. Boys had, what was it called? Shop? I think it was shop or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
And they learned how to build things, chairs, tables, all these things. We had all of that in our educational system. We don't have to
We don't have that anymore. Wow. Yeah.
So those are kind of all the things I'm saying that we used to be admired for, and everyone wanted to come to America. But right now, we need to clean up our own crap here.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Wow. Sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely, Mary. Well, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, you're absolutely right about everything you said. Mary, I'm going to ask you a few obligatory questions about your early career. Just because maybe, I mean, my audience is mainly rock and roll fans, and maybe someone out there doesn't know about the great genesis of you and the Temptations, if you don't mind. So I do want to ask you about the moment you met Florence Ballard in Detroit. By the way, what a voice she had, didn't she, Mary? You were singing at a talent show, if I got this right. You were singing one of Frankie Lymon's and the Teenager songs, I'm Not a Juvenile Delinquent. What do you remember, Mary, from when you met her? Like, what type of connection? What did you think? Like, just like the first couple times you met her.
Well, first of all, I wasn't singing, and I bring that up because Florence was singing. She was singing a cappella to her Ave Maria. She was singing. I was actually pantomiming to the song you mentioned. I'm Not a Juvenile Delinquent, and it was as you mentioned, Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers, my favorite group in life. In fact, I would say they really, sort of were the ones that helped me to want to be a singer. And so they were the popular group back then, like Michael Jackson and the Boys to Men and all those male groups that are out there now. And but they were in the 60s, the 50s. They were the group. and so I don't know how I got in my mind to pantomime to their record. I mean, I wasn't thinking of becoming a singer or a performer, but I did. And so I pantomimed, and I put on my brother's blue jeans and leather jacket, and I had my hair tied back with a do-rag here because black guys had that because they had to do the hair with the jerry curl.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I did, and the crowd just went crazy. And for me, you see, this was the first time I had ever done anything like that in my life. I mean, I would wake up in the morning sing, and I was in all the choirs of the Glee Club, but I did that because that's just what it was okay. But Florence, on the other hand, I didn't know her at the time, but she came on and she did this song Ave Maria, and we were only 11 or 12, okay, or 13 maybe, and she sang. Her voice was so big. After our performances, I went up to her, or she came up to me. I forgot who did what. And I told her, I mean, my God, your voice is so beautiful. And everybody in the gymnasium was feeling the same way because she didn't have any music. And she was just singing, ooh.
Wow.
I shouldn't try to do that. I have to say.
Oh, no, thank you for that. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Do your ears up.
I love it. We love it. We love it. We love it.
And so, and then she said, you had everybody in the gymnasium just rocking and rolling. You were like, really? And I was like saying to myself, wow, that really felt great. So she and I walked home together that afternoon after school. And, we just said, everyone put these little groups together. And if anyone thinks about it, let's think of each other. And we became friends. And a couple of weeks later, she came up to me on the playground and she said, Mary, my sister knows this group called the Primes, and they want to put together a girl group. And she said, I told them about you, and she told them about me. And then one of the guys went across the street, and that girl, Diane, who lives across the street, right across from you, they asked her if she wanted to sing because she's always out there playing and singing around. And that's how we got involved in singing. And we went over, auditioned for these guys called the Primes, two of them ended up being members of the Temptations, Paul Williams and Eddie Kendricks. And Eddie had a great falsetto.
And you auditioned for Milton Jenkins for this, right?
Well, Milton Jenkins was their manager. So he was there, and also there was Betty McGlon, who she was, I guess, dating one of the guys because she was a little older too. And so they said, okay, we're going to call you girls the Primettes. And that's how we started singing. I must also say that, which I didn't find this out till much later. One of the other ladies who was there dating one of the guys was Janie Bradford.
Oh.
Janie Bradford is a lady who actually was one of the co-writers of Money by Barry Strong. Money, that's what I want, So she was there as well. And so that kind of rounded out that whole little scenario of how we started singing as the Primettes, because they called us the Primettes. And of course, Betty left pretty soon. We then pulled into the group Barbara Martin, who was actually recommended to us by Melvin Franklin of the Temptations.
No way.
Yeah.
So, and she unfortunately passed away in March, right?
She just passed away a couple of weeks ago. In March.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, that rounded out our group. And so people always ask, well, how did you become three when you had started out as four, the Primettes? And we said, well, after Betty left, then Barbara came to the group, and she recorded in our first album, Meet the Supremes. A lot of people are not aware of that. So she ended up staying for a little while, but then decided that she wanted to get married and leave. So all these years, in fact, the last time I spoke to her, I said, how does it feel, that you didn't come with the Supremes?
Yeah.
She said, you know what? She says, I thought about it a lot. She said, but I love my husband, Willie. And so I said, well, you're the only one who had someone for all these years. So I guess, you had a great life. She was still in love with the same man all those years.
That's nice. Okay, so at least you picked that right.
Oh, yeah, right. She did. She really did.
Oh, Mary, that's phenomenal. Great. Thank you for gracing us with those stories. So you guys played in all the best places in the world, Mary, obviously. I want to ask you about a specific performance when you played for the royal family in London. Mm-hmm. Because that was crazy, right? You had Princess Margaret, Prince Charles. Can you tell us a little bit details about that? Like, tell us like the food. Tell us about transportation. Just paint us a picture a little bit. Well,
this was in 1968, and it was a time when we the Supremes had really become, sort of like a major act around the world. And by this time, we had traveled to all the major countries, Sweden, Germany, and so in England, the Supremes and Motown, I should say, not just the Supremes, but Motown, all the artists became very famous in the UK. Still today, they love us madly in the UK. I gotta say, if there's anyone listening, from the UK.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we were invited for the Royal Variety Show to be a part of this. They did a Royal Variety Show every year. And so it was televised there in England and all over not just the UK, but all over Europe actually. And so anyway, we were asked to be a part of that. And on the show was Engelbert Humperdinck, I recall, Petula Clark, who was also very famous at the time. Diane Carroll was on, and there were many other English artists on as well. And so anyway, when we were asked to be a part of it, this of course made our lives, because in the 60s, I mean, no one.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like today. Everybody knows the royal family and knows their history and all those kind of things. But back then, it was still, the borders weren't as open as they are now.
Sure.
So this was a huge honor, a huge honor. I mean, still it's a huge honor now, but it was only open to a few people, right?
Sure.
So we were very happy, and by this time we had started wearing a lot of these gorgeous gowns. And Michael Travis designed this gown for us. I call them the Queen Mother gown afterwards because we wore them there. And so it was, one of those shows where we were treated royally, and to be in that receiving line and to be singing before all of the dignitaries from England. In the UK, not just England, but the UK, was such an honor for us. I mean, we felt like, wow, we have definitely made it. We're singing for the royal family. How many people can say that back in the 60s? And we were still just out of the projects. We still were and the Civil Rights Bill had only just been passed. So this was like really a major thing. And, the Queen Mother was absolutely just adorable. And I remember Princess Margaret, after she was there with us, she says, and my husband, Lord Snowden, and she just walked on, And it was amazing because she and I became friends years later. I mean, not years later, we became friends after that. And I did a lot of her charity shows. In fact, I remember one, I did it with the Four Tops, and I went over and did her show. So it was one of those great moments in history when I can say that we were a part of a lot of history. I was looking the other night for this on TV. It was the 1968. They had one of these documentaries. And I didn't see everything, but someone called and said, "Mira, you guys were on that television show." But we were always in moments in history. We've been involved in a lot of those moments, great moments like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're part of the American fabric, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get nervous, Mary? I mean, look, we're talking about, the audition with, for Milton Jenkins and the Primes and the royal family. It seems like you guys, the three of you, were like so focused, so hungry. Any nervousness at all? Like, was there ever, or were you just like, focused gazelles?
Well, we were very focused as a group. I got to say that for young women, and especially young Black women at the time, nowadays, you see all these wonderful, great young performers out there, and they're all, they're doing so much and doing so well. But back in the 60s, for Black people, it wasn't something that was a normal situation. Be outside of your environment on a worldwide stage and to be so focused. But, it was three of us, I should say the four of us, who decided that we wanted to go to Motown to record. It was the four of us who won the Emancipation Day concert that we were involved in. It was the three of us who decided we want to do this. We wanted this. So we really loved, I should say, what we were doing. We loved
Yeah.
it, and we made our own decisions. Once we got to Motown, obviously the decisions were made by Motown and the people there, which was all great because I know that again on that 1968 documentary that was out, they talked about Hubert Humphrey. Well, we actually endorsed Hubert Humphrey
Mm.
back then, and things like that. We had our own bread. We did a lot of what you call it, commercials. We had our Arid commercial. We were saying, "I hear a symphony," and they raised our arm and show whatever. We had our own bread called Supreme White Bread, which we got a lot of flack from a lot of different people because it's like, why are you black people singing about white bread? Well, that's the only kind of bread we ate back in those days.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now we got millions of, you got the oats,
Yeah, gluten free. Yeah, exactly.
you got everything. Back then we only had one of the bread, right?
Sure,
That's
sure.
bread. So, but yeah, so we were just involved in so many things, and I do have to say that, as you mentioned in the very beginning, we made our own decisions, and after that, we were very lucky to be at Motown because they made some great decisions for us there.
That's it. Wow, you're being so kind with your time. Let me just ask you a few light questions and then I'll let you go. But this is so much fun, Mary.
That's all right.
So let me touch on Dancing with the Stars a little bit. You were one of the participants, for those that don't know, in ABC's hit show.
Right.
Recently, you unfortunately got eliminated a little bit early. But I'm curious about something, Mary.
Okay.
You just said that you guys made your own decisions, especially a lot at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Was it hard to go at this time in your career to a show and have so many people kind of telling you what to do and how to do it and all that?
I'm glad you brought that up because that was the only thing that I didn't like. Was to be told how to do this, how to do that, but that's kind of the way things are run these days. I absolutely adored being on the show. It reminded me so much of like the Ed Sullivan show, because again, it was a family show. And so now with Dancing with the Stars, also it was more of a everybody to watch that show, all the entire family. So I enjoyed being on it. I was so happy when they asked me to be a part of it. And yeah, I thought I came off a little early, but that's just the way it is these days.
Yeah.
One thing that the only thing that I would have to say, and I'm glad you brought it up instead of me, was that they kind of do tell you everything, and they have your assistants who come and they dress you and they do this and they take your clothes off. And I've been doing my own show and my own thing for years. So I don't want anybody taking my clothes off and and putting things in put your falsies in, these all these kind of things. So
right.
that was the one thing that I didn't like. But I tell you what was really great.
Tell me.
Was my partner. Well, I shouldn't say partner. He was actually my coach, Brandon. Such a lovely guy. In fact, oh yeah, he was very. What I liked about him was that he respected who I was, but he also knew, how to tell me how to do dance, do the different dances. Because some of those dances, the waltzes and the tangos and all those things, it's very strategical, and how you have to move and do this, and certain things you can do, certain things you can't. Well, I've always done choreography with the Supremes.
Right.
Because Atkins was our teacher back at Motown. So I learned how to dance. I knew how to do that and have someone to tell you. But these were different kinds of dance, that I didn't know how to do. And he was very respectful in the way that he told me how to do certain things. And he always called me Miss Mary, which I loved. Oh yes, he was really cool. So anyway, shout out to Brandon. Hey, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon, for treating Miss Mary with the respect that she is. She's an American icon.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great story, Mary. Thanks for sharing that. Mary, how does it feel today, when you walk to like a Walgreens or like random place and like you hear your songs, like, a grocery store, like, what do you feel?
You're reading my mind today because that just happened to me the other day. And usually when it happens, it's just me knowing that they're playing Love Child or they're playing I Hear a Symphony or Come See About Me or Baby Love is always Stop in the Name of Love. But earlier last week it was now, someone, um, I had just heard Love Child, and I'm like, oh, wow, wow, wow. So I was meeting my friend at Starbucks at the next moment, and we all had our mask on, the things like that. And so she brought her niece with her, and she said her niece, when her niece heard that she was coming to meet me, her niece was like, oh my God, Mary, what's her friend? So I was so thrilled to be able to tell her that, guess what, you just missed Love Child playing in the grocery store. She said, I did. I'm like, yeah. And I said, I wanted someone to tell, but I didn't have anyone to tell. So I'm telling you, they Love Child. And I'm like, it's me.
That must be the craziest feeling. Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary, that's great. You mentioned previously that you have an interest in maybe doing a Broadway musical. Is that something that you're still thinking about?
Oh yes, I've ever since I've written my first book, I wanted to do a movie or something on the Supremes, because I feel that we really, in American history, we did a lot at a time. I mean, people today are doing a lot as well. The artists today, the young artists, and I'm so proud of Ice Cube and Queen Latifah and all the people who are doing. They're just doing wonderful things. But back then, it was not something that a lot of Black people did and were given the honors that they should have been given. The Sammy Davises, the Ella Fitzgerald, Ethel Waters, Dorothy Dandridge. I mean, you can name all the great Black actresses and actors, and they were well loved, but yet still the laws prohibit people really giving them the full honors that they should receive. So, what was I saying about that? Well, why did I bring that up?
Because we're talking about Broadway.
Broadway. That's why it was a point. That's why I wanted to make sure I say it. Okay. So, but when I wrote my book, I was always told Black people have got to write their own stories. And so when I wrote my first one, and as you mentioned earlier, it was a bestseller. Then I had my second book, Supreme of Faith. And then I've done my third one, Supreme Glamour, which is a coffee table book about the Supreme gowns and all the glamorous things we've done in our career. And so I said, I had tried earlier on to do a movie, and they said, no one wants to see that, And, it's old news is what they were saying, Supreme said, there's too many young people doing great things. And, but then I look at these movies and everything is about men. Sorry to say this, but it's movies about men. And the only time that is really something about a woman is if it's so tragic, like Tina Turner, and all the tragedy. So I'm like, well, what about there's so many women who made history. And we should tell their stories,
100%.
And so I bring this up because I've always wanted to have my books made into movies, and the time was never right. But I think the time is right now.
Yes.
And since my dear friend Otis Williams did the Temptations on Broadway, I'm like, well, maybe we should try to do the Supremes on Broadway. So I am working towards that, and hopefully this is the time. It's good for it.
Oh, man, yes.
Yeah, we had some ups and downs, and we had a lot of downs, a lot of ups, and some tragedies and things like that. But I don't want to dwell on just the tragedies. I want to show how life is about ups and downs.
Yes.
But still, there's something that it should be applauded on some of the things that we've done. And so, yeah, I do want to do that.
Yeah. Mary, I think that's a great place to leave it. You've been so generous with your time. This has been so fun, Mary. It's been an honor to interview you. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you. Well, I do want to bring up one last thing.
Yeah. Please, whatever you want to bring.
No, because speak about things that so many people have done in terms of the music industry, and that has to do with some of the bills that have been passed. There was one recently that was passed called the Music Modernization Act. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with artists who recorded pre-1972, it was, not being paid with all the streamings and all these different things where our music is being used. We got our royalties, most of us got our royalties, but then now people can go on, download the music, upload it, I'm not really technically
Yeah.
craft savvy about all this stuff, but our music is being used and the artists are not being paid for it.
Okay.
Now, people are being paid. Someone's being paid, and so this Music Modernization Act is one that I'm very proud to have been a part of, because hopefully it'll help people and maybe their estates, people who passed on, to receive more money. There's also another thing going up that I'm working to find out more about, and that's called the Reversion Act, and it had to be about songwriters in terms of their music being used on streaming, and now maybe it might come to vocalists. I'm not sure. I'm still doing research on that, so I would like anyone who knows more about it to give me a call and let me find out about that too. So, I've always been involved in trying to do things to help people in the music industry, because people don't, we get our awards and they think that we're all happy, but there are people who are stealing our names. And there was another bill that I was involved with called Truth in Music. And so that's something that I'm working towards, maybe getting it passed in the federal courts. Right now it's passed in a lot of states, I think over 30 states. So this too will help people and their families to receive accolades that they should.
They deserve what they do. Sure. Mary, we don't need a Broadway play from you. We need a holiday. We need a national holiday. That's what we need.
Well, I'll tell you what would be really great. Not for me. I mean, I'm trying to create me, Diana, Flo, and Barbara and Betty. But I'm also working on getting a U.S. stamp for Florence Ballard. So if anyone would care to write into the U.S. United States Stamp Committee in Washington, D.C., and send a letter saying why they feel that you have to have passed. So the Supremes can't receive one, but Florence Ballard can.
Okay, that's nice.
That would love. That's something I'm working on, and I just hope that people will think that's important enough, especially the women and Black women, who I think that we have inspired.
That's a great idea.
Florence was a part of all of that.
We'll put all the information on how to do this in the episode description and all that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Mary, thank you so much. Such a treat. Such a treat. You're such a wonderful person. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much.
All right. Nice meeting you. Take care.
Stay safe. Wear your mask when you go out.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, bye-bye.